Let's go racing, boys. Hey. Turn it up, Josh. Turn it up. Let us hear him on the backstretch. Let us hear him in the garage. Boogity, 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 boogity. Racing, boys. Oh, yeah. In Indy. We're going to Indianapolis. Back to Indianapolis this weekend. We welcome in the fast lane on this Friday night, our good buddy, 10-4 good buddy, Jeff Owens. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Phil. How are you today?
Well, except for my putrid singing voice, I'm doing just fine. You were never – now, have you changed your feelings about Indy? Because you've never been a big fan – you weren't a big fan of them previously racing on the big track.
Yeah, I just think, for many, many years it just wasn't a very good race. And they've always struggled for these cars to get around that racetrack. It wasn't built for these kind of cars, and it's always been a little bit of a struggle. And I actually think this race will be too. We've already heard them talk about the dirty air and how difficult it's going to be to pass and that sort of thing. So, I love the history and prestige of Indy. It is probably the most prestigious racetrack in the world, and I love that they're racing there. But it's always been somewhat disappointing. They just haven't produced very many good races there, and that's why they switched to the road course, and they ran it for 2 or 3 years, and those races weren't that great either. So now they switched back to the big oval, and we'll see. Have they figured out enough on this new car by now to where they can produce a good race there? We'll see. But it just hasn't produced over the years.
Well, practice today, and Tyler Reddick in a Toyota, 182.582. Ryan Blaney in a Ford, 181.928. Denny Hamlin in a Toyota, 181.561. And then Christopher Bell in a Toyota, 181.371. So I don't know what you learned from all that, but those speeds are pretty doggone good. I mean, is this the first time? This would be the first time for this particular car, this setup for this car to be on this track at Indy, correct? First time they've run it?
Yeah, I believe that's correct, Phil. I think they've run the road course there the last couple of years since they went to the new car. So that'll be the challenge, Can they, they got to figure out this car on a very difficult track. And the challenge at Indy, you got those, they pick up enormous speed going down those long straightaways. But then you've got a really, really tight, sharp turn that's difficult to navigate. And it's very difficult to pass in because there's a very specific line and way to get around those turns. And it's hard to develop a couple of different grooves. Now, one thing that may help them, I think, is racing last week at Pocono. Of all the tracks out there, the one that compares most favorably to Indy is Pocono. That long straightaways, tight turns, that sort of thing. So that may help them a little bit, to sort of get a handle on the setup or give you a starting point anyway. So it'll be a big challenge, not only for the drivers, but I think the biggest challenge this weekend is two things. One, it's going to be on the crew chiefs to set these cars up properly for the drivers and then be able to make adjustments during the race. But also, this is going to be a track position race. Pit road and pit crews, pit stops are going to be critical because it's going to be hard to pass. And if you get up front and get out, get the lead, you're going to be able to check out. So track position, pit stops are also going to be critical.
Jeff Owens in the fast lane with us here on SportsTalk. Looking forward to the Brickyard 400 this weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And, Jeff, you just laid out perfectly why I'm like you. This is not an exciting race other than the venue. And has NASCAR gotten itself in a position where it just can't go away from Indianapolis? I mean, they're talking about it as one of the crown jewels of the sport. And to me, it doesn't compare to Daytona. It doesn't compare to Darlington in terms of win and history and the whole 9 yards, but at least for NASCAR. But is NASCAR backed into a corner because of the history of the track? We just can't go away from there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Chris. It would be a bad look if they left Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Brickyard. I don't think they can do that, but I agree with you. It's not one of the crown jewel races. Now, the drivers will tell you that it is, because there is a tremendous amount of prestige from winning at the Brickyard. But from a competition standpoint and a fan standpoint, it has not been anywhere on the level of a Daytona or a Darlington or a Bristol, or I could name another half dozen tracks that it doesn't even compare to. So they are backed into a little bit of a corner, because from a history standpoint, prestige, and just the look and politics of it, how do you pull a race from Indianapolis Motor Speedway? I don't think you can do that. So I think they're just going to have to keep slugging away and see if they can come up with a good one and see what happens. It'll be interesting to see how they officiate this race, because the most exciting moments are going to be when you have a restart. They do not want the field to get strung out. So do we see some caution flags, for the old phantom debris caution and that sort of thing, to give you some restarts and add some excitement? I'm betting we see that at least once on Sunday.
You got a favorite for this one?
Well, I'll tell you what, Tyler, as you said, Tyler Reddick led practice. He's been, he's only won one race this year, but he's been knocking on the door almost every week. I like him. And Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney's hot right now, and he had the car and he won that race at Pocono. And that usually translates pretty well, and he's got a lot of momentum right there. I think he'll be in the hunt as well.
All right, sir. We thank you as always. Have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
Jeff.
We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Kyle Larson leading the driver's standings. He's got 3 wins. He's won 8 stages, so he's leading with 700 points. Denny Hamlin is second. Down at the bottom, there's only 5 races left in the regular season. So Ross Chastain right now is in the 16th spot, but he's got a 27-point advantage over number 17, Bubba Wallace. So he's got some wiggle room there, unless, of course, somebody beneath them wins a race and gets one of those automatic spots.